But we're going to do something a little bit different in this video, and I'm going to show you places in my town and my neighborhood. This is actually how I spent the last day or so, just kind of going out and enjoying the scenery of my small town where I live. And if you're watching this video, you'll see the park by the high school where the high schoolers usually run track and where various other folks come to play ball. Little drainage field there. I like to go there because it's pretty close to where I live and it's pretty peaceful. Or in this case, I sometimes go over to the Capitol because I can walk around the Capitol campus. That's also pretty close to where I live. And I think it's interesting how, as a gamer, I like to play games in a casual way. I like to just immerse myself in the experience of being in a game world that feels intriguing to me. Maybe it's Elder Scrolls Online, maybe it's Albion Online, maybe it's immersing myself in a virtual city that I've built in a game like Anno or Cities Skylines. I was even playing New World again earlier today. Just loaded it up for nostalgia's sake and was running around messing about in that game. And I don't have any objectives. I'm just playing the games because I like to be a passive fan and be part of the game world. That's what makes it fun. But today I was realizing there is another game that I'm pretty addicted to that's not actually played on the computer, and that's the open world of exploring real places. It's going outside with a cup of coffee and probably walking around familiar places that I've already seen before, and yet always feeling like it's invigorating and it's familiar and it's meaningful and it's inspiring. Today I went out around noon, I would say, and I was just walking around town. Had some phone calls with some folks because, having just recently transitioned out of my job, I found myself with spare time and used some of that time to call some people and have some long talks. But mostly I was just enjoying the views around the park, enjoying the views around town, looking at houses and neighborhoods. And interestingly, the day went by, and before long it was late, and I was returning to my apartment sometime around 9 o'clock at night. And what started off as a little meander at lunchtime with a cup of coffee turned out to be a 9-hour stroll around town. And while I was doing it, I took a few videos here and there. I've thought I'd like to share my life with other people. I'd like to be transparent and, just, I guess, make sure the experiences I have are also experiences other people can benefit from. And yet I also want to be mindful, because the joy of it is to be able to just immerse in the experience. If you're always taking pictures of everything and live streaming and stuff like that, it's the same as in a video game. If you're like a Twitch streamer or something and you're constantly streaming content, then you might get to a point where you don't actually enjoy the game because you're not able to enjoy it for yourself. You're always trying to impress an audience. And I don't ever want to be like that. When I play a computer game, I want to do it because I'm truly doing it for myself. And when I'm out hanging around town or doing something that I think is cool or exploring a place, I want to do it genuinely in a manner that allows me to truly enjoy the experience for myself. And that's where I think the best way to share things is to, maybe take a short video or take a picture and compile it later on, like what I have going on here. Right there, you see a scene from Centennial Park here in Helena, just, enjoying the view. But it's not something that breaks my immersion in the moment. It's a way to preserve a memory, but it's not something that takes away from the experience. So, life, whether you're playing a game or playing the game of real life, it can be all part of a single, seamless, wonderful experience. When you stop trying to achieve an objective and you learn the beauty of just being there, that's actually the whole point of it. And I was thinking about this as I was dabbling in New World, playing a little bit of that RPG. And I was thinking about those familiar thoughts that have often plagued me. The question of, what is the best MMORPG to play? What is the best game to play? And I realized that it isn't about that, because it's all the same experience. Whether I'm enjoying the view of life passing by in a city park, or exploring a shopping center somewhere, or spending time with friends or family that I enjoy, or immersing myself in an open world RPG, or doing something creative in a city building game, or just visiting some game that I don't play all the time, but happen to have enough nostalgia for that I would like to load it up once in a while. It doesn't really matter what the activity is, what the game is, or if it's a game at all. It's all part of this singular, meditative, very personal experience of doing things which bring a sense of peace and joy into our lives. But the interesting thing about that peace and joy is it's not manic. It's not euphoria. It's not this extreme mountaintop experience where you're bouncing off the walls and ceilings and you can't contain yourself. It's this weird mix of boredom and satisfaction, when a few minutes can turn into a few hours easily. If we're talking about human relationships, the best friendships, romances, all of it, come to manifest themselves in those moments when you could spend all day with somebody and it would feel like it was just a few minutes. And you could spend a whole life with somebody and it would feel only like it was a short day. I was listening to a sermon, actually, from a church in Arkansas while I was walking around. And when I listen to sermons, I think it's interesting how sometimes, as an agnostic, I don't necessarily agree with everything that's going to be said in a sermon because it's delivered from a religious perspective. And so in this case, the sermon was about marriage. And as a more progressive person, I'm not going to endorse the parts of the message which are maybe a little bit more sexist or homophobic or something of that nature, right? Where you're trying to say that different genders are not equal, or you're trying to say that people who have different types of relationships are in some way less valid or, not approved of by God. I can't endorse that sort of way of thinking. But there's a lot of things in spirituality and a lot of things that are Christian values and things which are really, really good. And in this sermon, the man was talking about how important it is for husbands to honor their wives. That was, he said, one of the main duties of a man in a relationship, to honor his wife. And then he was talking about what honor really means. And obviously it means things like fidelity and faithfulness, like don't be out cheating on your spouse and stuff like that. But then he said it's also, more than anything, it's about living with one another. And he was talking about a Bible verse that says that very thing, talks about spouses living with each other. And when you say living with each other, you think about it as just, well, I guess, yeah, you share the same space, you live together. But it's more than that. It's about actually sharing your life with somebody else, like your whole life, to make another person part of your life, spiritually, emotionally, to have a real companion on the journey. That's what it's all about. You're looking for that player two, I guess, the person who's going to be actively involved in your experience. That's what makes it worth it in the end. But quite often, whether you're talking about a relationship or you're talking about other things, we can be, living, but are we really actually living? Like, we're alive and we're there, but are we present? Are we truly there spiritually, or are we just there physically? Our bodies are taking up a space. We're going through motions, but we aren't really living a life that's built on a foundation of love. And how do you know? Well, you know it because it's like that leisure wandering walkabout that I went on, where 9 hours can go by and I'm just soaking up the sun and enjoying a day and getting some exercise without any objective or agenda, watching the grasses blowing in the wind and ducks in ponds, and it's just effortless. It's something that is as natural as breathing. You don't get up every day and say, I think I'm going to breathe in and out a few 100,000 more times. You just do it. You drink when you're thirsty and you eat when you're hungry, and you don't have to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other, because it's just part of life. And those are the things that really, that's how our lives should be. It should be automatic and natural, everything we do. We should do work that we love. We should do activities that we love. We should spend our time in a way that is not necessarily successful, but fulfilling. We should spend our time investing in relationships that make service easy and make our lives feel complete. Not necessarily overwhelmingly thrilling, not necessarily a mountaintop experience, just a good experience. And I think a lot of times we make the mistake of wanting things to be perfect instead of just seeking for them to be good. It's not really about perfection. It's about goodness. It's about finding things that we can count on, principles that endure in a often changing and uncertain world. The good thing about it, though, is just like a game where you see the same things many times and yet you can still put thousands of hours into the game, or your favorite places to go around the neighborhood where you see the same houses and same parks and same sites, and yet you can keep on going to the same places again and again, and it's still cathartic and peaceful and enjoyable. The things that we need in life aren't many. You need maybe one person to be your spouse. You need a few people to be true and genuine friends. You don't need the people who don't know how to be a good friend, or the people who are manipulative in some way, or the people who fill up your Facebook feed with, hundreds of points of contact, but they don't really add any value. You just need a few good, imperfect things. People, work that you love, places that you love, and that is life. Life is this simple adventure to enjoy small things, simple things, and just watch the world go by, admiring the beauty of the earth. As my old friend used to say, life has loveliness to sell, so buy it, and never count the cost. So that would be my challenge to anyone listening or watching. Spend your time doing things that you love, because if you do that, you will never work another day in your life. So, till next time, as always, good luck on your adventure, and thanks so much for watching.